Los Angeles police thought that the murder of a young woman last March was an isolated act of violence, but since then they've come to believe it was connected to a wide-ranging series of assaults by a killer who's become known as the Night Stalker.
Police today continue to search for any clues in the near-fatal shooting of 29-year-old William Carnes and the rape of his girlfriend. They're apparently the latest victims of the Night Stalker, thought to be responsible now for 34 brutal attacks, 14 of them fatal. Just as before, the assailant entered a house in a quiet middle-class neighborhood in the pre-dawn hours on Sunday through an unlocked window and attacked the couple while they slept.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough, but then again, maybe they don't.
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night.
Officials and newsmen at first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, the reports persisted.
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Well, if you haven't guessed it, it's just me for right now. Charles is running a tick behind. He was caught in traffic, and we're just kind of waiting on him to get in here. As you probably guessed, we are going to be talking about the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. Some of you might be old enough to remember Richard Ramirez. Some of you probably aren't. But in the classification of serial killer, he is probably one of the most brutal that there was. And we'll get into a little bit of his story here in a little bit. Real quick, I want to take the time to give everybody a shout out. Those of you that are on our Patreon page. If you're not, we do an After Dark show, which goes live right after this one, in which we go a little bit further in depth with the show. And if you want to join us on the Patreon page, it's going to be patreon.com/Boogeyman Radio. And for less than $1 or less than $1 a day, you can feed a homeless child now. But for less than a tank of gas, you can actually enjoy the extended shows for an entire month. So hop over there. We'll have the site up here in just a little bit. It's going to be Boogeyman Radio on patreon.com. Here we go. There it is. So yeah, that starts at 9:15. I promise Charles will be there. I will be there as well. Tonight's show, I kind of wanted to show some of the crime scenes and things of that nature. So if you're squeamish, you probably won't want to watch some of this. You can just kind of look away. But I'm not going to put up a whole lot of images on this live stream. It'll probably be on the After Dark that will show more. Just because that's what we do on the After Dark. We let our hair down and we get a little loose. A little loosey-goosey with it. Real quick, shout out. Hi, Cassie. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Pollyanna. Yeah, and whoever else is in here watching. It's still not sponsored by Mountain Dew. Kelly remembers. I wish I was. What is up, Josh? Glad you could join us. But yeah, the crime scenes and stuff we'll be showing some more photos for that as we go here. Charles just messaged me, said he has 2 more minutes before he's on, which is fine. Before we get into tonight's show, I'm just kind of holding off time until Charles gets here. Next week, we've got a killer show for you guys lined up already. Surprise, we already had like an idea of what we're going to do. But next week, I think you guys are going to love the show. We're going to cover, and it might be multiple shows that we do this. but we're going to be covering the Salem witch trials. I think that'll be kind of fun to dive into, see what there is that you don't really read about in the history books, things you wouldn't know unless you like went to Salem or whatever, or if you were there, past life regressions, all that kind of thing. But no, Salem witch trials will be next week, so be sure to tune in for that. Also, if you want to help support this show, Haunting History, we do have a shop, which is hauntinghistory.threadless.com. You can get yourself a t-shirt. We've got the Boogeyman Radio t-shirts on there. We've also got the It's Not Paranormal, It's Paratainment, the Haunting History shirts, the Poultrygeist. Still have shirts on there for the Haunting History Paracon. Other designs are on there as well. So jump over there, grab yourself some merch, support the show. And if you do jump over there and get some shirts or whatever, take a picture of it, send it to us. We'd love to see it. Just send it to our Facebook page. And we will actually show the world, So there's that. Also, if you haven't yet, on Haunting History on the YouTube channel, I did release another episode from the Stone Line Inn. Just released that this past weekend, and it's now available for all eyes to see. I think I have one more episode that I'm going to edit, and that's going to be from the Missouri State Pen. We did the KY3 Haunting History thing there, but I also shot for an episode, so on the KY3 thing, you don't see everything that's going on, which is really cool. Lends itself to the episode, and we had some special guests with us. Justin Spurrier and Austin Spurrier were with us, and Charles was with me, and John. Yeah. By the way, guys, I was just at the Garnett House a few days ago, and it was pretty active. And we did some things to ourselves for experimentation out there. And now that Charles is here, I'm gonna kind of fill him in on it because he didn't know what was going on at the Garnett House. What's going on, my man? We cannot hear you. Switch your mic. He's like, Fuddruckers. So Charles, I know you can still hear me, right? So I'm just going to fill you in on what happened over at Garnett House. We had a pretty cool time there. We actually caught some things.
Did you?
Yeah.
I know my mic probably sounds weird.
On YouTube. And
There, is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. Okay. All right, cool.
Well,
Sorry, everybody.
We did get this breath. It was super loud. We got it on recording. Heard some other things during the live stream. I made Justin and Austin and myself split up, and we all sat in the doorways.
How did Austin like that?
Oh, he didn't like it at all. We put him at the bottom of
dude.
We put him at the foot of the stairs with his back to the stairs. And he kind of freaked there. And then we gave him choice of the next spot because the first round we had some lights on. The second round I made him turn off the lights, and the only way to get Austin to do it was to give him choice of where to put people.
Yeah.
And they stuck me in one of the worst spots I don't like to be in that house.
Which is where? Okay.
Okay, so when you come down the stairs and you go and turn and you're in that first room.
Yeah.
That door right there that has the hallway, bathrooms on the right.
Go right next to the bathroom?
No, you're not next to the bathroom, but you're in that doorway that's right there. You have that door that's to your left, and then the hallway that goes to your right, and the bathroom's to your right.
Yeah.
So they sat me there. The door doesn't close; it stays open about that much, right. And I had just enough light where I could see if something were to pass through there. And so as I'm going down there to do this, like some spindles that they had leaning against the wall fell over. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So I go back, I say something to them, and I go back over there, and some more of the spindles fall over. I'm like, all right. So I just pulled down the rest of them so that it wouldn't keep falling over.
Smart.
But turned out all the lights and did this, right? I got even me, like I got pretty nervous about being right there, because all I kept thinking was in that door, that crack in the door, I was going to see like somebody doing one of those numbers, and I was going to flip. I didn't. I maintained.
Freaking yourself out.
Yeah, it's hard not to do. Hard not to do that.
Oh, I get it, dude. I completely get it. We did you have anything else happen?
I posted the hide and fap one.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a funny one. Did they tell you about anything we had happen?
We did have the ball come out of the closet too, by the way.
Okay.
But yeah, you told me a little bit, and they told me just a little bit. But
we did the harmonics, or the what was it? Not harmonic. Well, it's pitches. Harmonics, but the pitchforks and that one, or the pitchforks, the forks that have pitch. Anyways, yeah, tuning right. Tuning forks. That's it. Yeah. Well, they're pitches. It's fine.
Yeah. No.
Same thing. Whatever. So we did that in that room, kind of in the middle of the house, right there. And Justin was standing in the doorway with his back to the kitchen. Austin was in the doorway to the main room, like where people kind of tend to just set up shop. Like it feels like the calmest in the room or whatever, or in the house. And then I was in the doorway where the bathroom was, right behind me in that hallway. And they kept saying, "Oh, people feel so uncomfortable there, and it just feels off." And I was like, I don't feel anything.
I feel it on top of the stairs. I don't feel it in that bathroom.
Yeah, well, not even the bathroom. Just standing in that doorway, I felt fine. I didn't feel any. I didn't feel uncomfortable until Justin like screamed out of nowhere. He just like started yelling like a maniac. He's like, "I'm gonna change the energy real quick," and then just started yelling like crazy. And I'm like, "All right, I feel slightly uncomfortable now." But just because I was like, "Wow, that's actually, man, if you had an actor for like trying to do some good yells and screams, he would fit the bill easily."
Or Scream Queen.
Yeah, so the first time that ball, or the only time the ball fell out of the closet, we did hear it. We were in the farthest room away from that room, and I thought I heard something. And I asked the guys if they heard anything. They didn't, and I was like, I swear to God, I totally heard something. And later on, we go into that room, and then the ball is just like stuck there. It didn't come out all the way. It was too much air in the ball, so it just got stuck between the shelf and the wall. And then sometime in the night, the ball came out of the attic. We don't know when it happened.
Out of the attic?
Yeah. And that ball is loud when it comes out of the attic. That first time, we have no idea. I don't know when it happened. I didn't hear it, didn't hear the ball, nothing. I think we might have either been transitioning to the basement or we were in the basement. But even then, you'd think we would have heard it. But so we were upstairs doing investigating, or we were investigating. Oh, great. And then I didn't hear, nothing really happened. Like we were asking questions, and we were getting a lot of disembodied voices. I didn't hear a lot of it, but Austin and Justin definitely could hear a lot of disembodied voices. Yeah. There was a few times we were in the kitchen where we heard a female voice, which was trippy, by that window. Yeah, that was, they were hitting on some points that were really interesting, and we started hearing some voices come from that, and then we were upstairs investigating. I was asking questions. I go over to the attic, and I'm just looking up there. I'm like, all right, come on, make that ball fall off. Just kind of like, you could do it. I know you can do it. You've done it several times. Just freaking do it. And like, just basically saying something. I was like, all right, fine. Like, you're not going to do it, clearly, so whatever. So we leave. We go back downstairs. Not even a minute after we go downstairs, that ball comes out of the freaking attic. I was like, so of course you do it when I'm not around. Or like when we're not around, you just do it then. But then, like, what the hell? So, yeah, that was interesting. But it was really, really cool. And I'm able to go Thursday. I told Austin. So.
Huh. That's pretty cool. So, on that note, we'll discuss more about Garnett on the After Dark as well.
Absolutely.
If you guys want to join us over there after the show, it's that Patreon link right below me. Right
below you.
We're going to talk Richard Ramirez now. And to kind of understand his crimes, I think we should understand the person.
Yes.
How he grew up and everything. And I'll just go ahead and start with that. Just a little bit about his upbringing. So, yeah. Excuse me. Hold on. What the heck?
Had a cough and feet out of nowhere. Oh, dang it. My headset's about to die, so I have to charge it. So, sorry if you guys see me plugging my headset in. Oh. How dare I?
All right. So, Richard Ramirez was born in 1960 in Texas. Don't mess with Texas. They'll murder your family.
That's right.
He was the fifth child of Mexican immigrants and was known as Richard or Ricky. And at a young age, he reportedly sustained multiple head injuries. At the age of 5, he was knocked unconscious by a swing. And at that point, he began to experience epileptic fits. As an adolescent, Ramirez was heavily influenced by his older cousin, Miguel, who had recently returned from fighting in the Vietnam War. The two smoked weed and did some things together. And Miguel would tell Ramirez about the torture and mutilation that he would inflict on some of the women, the Vietnamese women, and show him photos of himself doing these things during the war. At the age of 13, Ramirez witnessed his cousin, Miguel, murder his wife. Like, he did it right in front of him. He had a strict upbringing. His father would beat him and sometimes would punish him by one of the notable things that happened to Ramirez as punishment was his father took him to a cemetery at the middle of the night and tied him to a tombstone, like a cross, and left him. Left him overnight. So yeah, he had a pretty rough childhood.
Oh yeah.
Ninth grade, he dropped out of school, and then he was arrested for the first time in 1977. So this would have put him at the age of 17. He got arrested for marijuana possession, and then he soon moved to California, and his usage progressed into cocaine. And then that caused him to get into acts of burglary. And he eventually, at that time, cultivated an interest in Satanism. He was arrested twice in Los Angeles in the area for auto theft in 1981 and then again in 1984. And then noticeably began to neglect his personal hygiene. And there's a reason why a lot of these documentaries will bring that up. And we'll discuss that a little bit later. But at this point, when you hear the rough childhood and everything, I mean, at this point, it kind of becomes a conversation of nature versus nurture, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, with him being just as a kid and being shown all those horrible pictures and violence and just witnessing the murder and, like, just... This kid from the get-go didn't really know what love is. He just knew horrible thing, like this horrible stuff. Plus, his cousin wasn't ever evaluated after the war, so he was thinking this could be normal behavior, right? Like all this weird, crazy thoughts that his cousin was sharing with him.
It makes you think what kind of trauma his cousin experienced during the war.
Oh, yeah.
That, well,
his cousin was excited to go kill people freely. He explained that, like, talking to, Ramirez. He explained to him how happy he was that he was able to kill these people freely and basically live out whatever crazy things he could do with no punishment because it was all an act of war.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's did you go over the part where he was diagnosed already?
Just the epilepsy thing.
Yeah, so it was the temporal lobe epilepsy. Yeah. where they didn't know that could make him cause him to have personality changes and obsessive thoughts. Yeah. So, anyways,
if there's anything else that I kind of glazed over that you want to jump in on, go ahead and add it.
Well, Miguel wasn't. He didn't go to jail. He went to an asylum basically because he claimed he wasn't guilty, and they blamed it on insanity from the war. So his cousin never actually went to jail. And then, let's see, you said he went to LA at 13, or no, not after. Oh yeah, that's where his cousin was at, was LA, right?
After the age of 17, he moved to LA. 17,
yeah. He visited LA for another reason. I can't remember. I think it was his brother. So his brother, so he went and lived with his brother at the age of 12, I'm pretty sure. Like for a little while, he went to go live with his brother, which was in LA, and his brother taught him how to be a burglar and was exposed to like sex trafficking, prostitutes, and being picked up by men at night, like trying to be picked up by men at night. So as a 12-year-old, he was exposed to all this crazy, like hypersexual stuff. And so that obviously on his mind and other things. So after that, he experimented, or you already said he experimented with hallucinogenic drugs, right?
Did not. Just cocaine.
Yeah, so he did experiment with hallucinogenic drugs for a little while, and that's about the same time that he met, or that he became obsessed with Satan. And then, I don't want to skip too far ahead. He then, did you talk about how he attacked his first victim at 15?
No, I didn't get into any of his acts.
Oh, okay. So this was before he even went to LA.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do this now then.
Yeah, so he attacked his first victim when he was 15 in her hotel room that he worked at. He had a master key to all the hotel rooms already. So when he did that, the attack was actually interrupted by her husband, who came back and basically beat Ramirez to a pulp. He was then admitted to the hospital, and he was actually claiming to be the victim, that she was coming on to him. And with him being a child, basically, 15 years old, a teenager, he got off as juvenile, and his parents obviously believed him, so he went back and lived with his parents again. And that's when, shortly a year after that, his cousin was released from jail, or was released from the asylum, that he was all cured and better now. And then they, like, almost immediately, he started picking up the antics with his cousin again, just doing marijuana all the time and picking up chicks and, just horrible things, drug running.
Now, what I find interesting real quick, like, if you ever listen to some of Ramirez's interviews that he's done or listen to him speak, he does actually have an awareness, and he actually does like to talk about the whole nature versus nurture aspect of being a killer. Like if he was, people will ask him if he was born with this idea that he's a killer, or was it something that was groomed, and he will actually have a conversation about that.
For me, I fully believe it was what he was exposed to as a child.
And I think he does too, or did too. He's passed away now.
Because if he didn't spend all that time with his cousin, because after his brothers left the household, it was just him and his sister. Well, I'm sure the family was like, hey, go hang out with your cousin for the longest time. And then they noticed that he was acting strange. They tried to stop him, but it didn't work out so well. So it just, no matter what his dad did, he would still go after and hang out with his cousin. So then they just was like, whatever, he's going to do it anyways. So well, if he wasn't around his cousin all that time, he probably would have been a completely different person.
Maybe. I mean, he did get abused by his father as well. And
well, yeah, but that could be just one facet. Then when it led into the sexuality and abusing of other people.
Sometimes it's just a single act that can make somebody snap,
But a kid being exposed to very sexually illicit and murderous photos, and the kid knowing that this was doing something for him, like
I think there could have been a possibility with the personality disorder, getting abused by your father. Who knows? His first victim.
Well, that makes total sense.
Been his father.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that.
So I think in this case, it was very much a case of nurture. And I think that's the case with most killers, most serial killers. Something about the way they were brought up, like, entices them in their murders, you know? Like they might,
absolutely.
like with Ramirez in regards to his killings, a lot of times a lot of the violent acts he committed wasn't just killings. He did a lot of rapes and assaults. He had over 34 victims total. But like, what was it? 14 that he was convicted of, 14 murders that he was convicted of.
Something like, it was at least. Yeah.
But it wasn't until 2017 they found another victim.
That was the young girl, right?
Yep.
That was 2017. I thought it was much earlier than that they found that out.
No, it's 2017. And that's that. I think that is what you just said was part of the brutality of it. It wasn't just the rapes and murders, but it was who it was to.
Yes.
The people he targeted a lot of children.
Did he really?
Yeah, he raped a lot of children. Murdered.
Okay, that's weird. Yeah, that's
murdered a few.
Most of the people that I thought he went after was like old people that couldn't defend themselves,
and the elderly. Yeah. And a lot of times it was because he was burglarizing the home, and it was depending on who was home.
Plus, he'd get frustrated if nothing was there, and he'd take his act out on the people.
In fact, one of the children that he sexually abused he sexually abused her when she was 6. She's one of the people that helped identify Richard Ramirez.
Wow.
So, there were some people that he let live, but when you see the brutality of his crimes, it's kind of surprising that anybody lived, honestly.
I was so surprised that he let so many people live, and I think it was just because he wanted to get that, and he wanted people to know, like, there was somebody out there, so he wanted to have victims to tell a tale, basically. But there were some people that he didn't, whatever. Crazy.
So yeah, his first known murder on June 28th of 1984 was the victim who was 79-year-old Jenny Vincow, who was sexually assaulted. She was stabbed and killed during a burglary in her own home.
Yep.
And then, of course, what followed was a spree of brutal murders, rapes, and robberies, leaving dozens of victims in its wake.
Yeah.
Ramirez struck nearly 9 months later on March 17th of 1985 when he attacked Maria Hernandez, who managed to escape, and then he killed her roommate, Dale Okazaki. Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't satisfied with those assaults, so he also shot and killed somebody else the same evening, spurring a media frenzy that saw Ramirez dubbed the Valley Intruder by the press. And then 10 days later, on March 27th, Ramirez murdered 64-year-old Vincent Zazara and Zazara's 44-year-old wife, Maxine, using an attack style that would become a pattern for the killer. The husband was shot first, and then the wife was brutally assaulted and stabbed to death. In this case, Ramirez also gouged out Maxine's eyes.
Yes, to keepsake. He kept them as a keepsake. I do want to mention before we get too far, he did meet the leader of the Church of Satan, or the founder of the Church of Satan, and during a ritual that Ramirez was reportedly at, he believed that he was touched by Satan. Yeah. And so that's where the whole pickup of his satanic acts came from after that.
And he was freely admitting it. I mean, in fact, like one of the most...
That was very early his time in California.
Yeah, one of the best-known images was him in court professing his love for Satan. It was this image where he's got the pentagram drawn on his palm.
And the pentagram was actually involved in several of his murders too.
Mm-hmm. In fact, this is one of the crime scene photos. It's in black and white, so it won't be so bloody. But the pentagram he drew in lipstick above the second bed.
Yep.
If you guys can see that. And
that was the same murder, I believe, of oh gosh, what is their name?
We can get to it.
I can't. Yeah, I can't remember. Oh, it was. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But I will say when he killed Veronica or Dale, or no, when he killed Dale and Veronica in the same night, he actually that first victim that he beat. I can't remember her name. The one that survived.
Yeah, Hernandez.
Yeah, they had a description from her, and then he left a baseball cap behind the scene. He left his AC/DC baseball cap at the scene, which blew my freaking mind.
Funny thing was, this was before they had DNA testing.
Yeah.
So, and which is why he got away so much on
so
a lot of rapes and stuff, and that's why that one body that they actually found his DNA.
Yeah.
On it.
Yep.
And just to give you an image of the brutality, this one might be a little bloody.
Say just a warning for people now if it's
a low res image, so hopefully it won't do anything to But this was just one of the rooms where he murdered somebody. That blood splatter, man.
And that was the which case was that? I believe that was the. No, not the Dios. I think it was the Dios. Maybe not. I know it was a husband and wife for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, let me go ahead and continue here.
Yeah, keep on going. We'll go through the cases.
So a full-scale police operation yielded no concrete results, and Ramirez repeated his attack patterns on pensioners William and Lily Doy in May of 1985. Over the next few months, his murder rate escalated, claiming another dozen victims in a frenzy of burglary, assault, and brutal violence, complete with satanic rituals.
Did you know he was staying at the Cecil Hotel?
Yes. The Los Angeles Police Department responded by putting together a dedicated task force with the FBI stepping in to assist. One thing that I was watching this documentary, when they were talking about this, they were saying that as far as his weapons go, he didn't have like any go-to kind of weapon.
No.
He would either beat him with like tire irons, hammer, shoot him, stab him. So like there was no pattern to that, but like just the style of killing, I think, is what they really patterned everything off of up until he started leaving the pentagrams.
Well, and you'd think too, like they would eventually they had to have realized they had the same size of shoe, the same style too.
Yeah.
At several of these murders, and it's a bunch of old people who can't defend themselves.
Yep.
You think they would have put it like 2 and 2 together to link these, but apparently not. Like, okay.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. Oh, and sorry, at the Dios, he actually left a footprint. I think that was the first time that they did keep a footprint in, and Lillian was disabled, so she couldn't defend herself at all. She couldn't So she was basically pretty not mute, but he did shoot Bill like multiple times, but Bill actually ended up surviving. So thank goodness for him. She couldn't describe Ramirez because of her stroke, because of her disability. So the cops had no lead from that part, but they had a footprint. So the cops just saw it as random. They thought it was just so random, these types of killings. They weren't looking at the style of who he was, or they weren't looking at the people he was killing. They were trying to link it from his style of killing, which nowadays, obviously, there's more than one facet of linking serial killers together. It's not just from what they're using; it's who they're going after. Like, duh. Anyways,
so the relentless media and police pressure, aided with descriptions from his surviving victims, forced Ramirez to leave L.A. that August in 1985. And I don't know if you've seen the sketch of what they were describing.
So, yes, absolutely.
It doesn't really look a whole lot like it. I mean, it does and it doesn't. It kind of looks alien.
It does.
If you ask me. I didn't. I should have grabbed a picture of it, but I didn't.
Well, I might. So when you said he left L.A., that's when he went to San Francisco, right?
Yes, he went north to San Francisco where he took 2 more.
I've got more stuff before that.
Okay.
Before he left, if you want to get into that.
Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So the killing after Dio and William Lillian, he actually went and killed 2 sisters. They were roommates. It was Mabel Bell and Nettie Lang. He attacked Mabel first, then attacked Nettie. He drew a pentagram on her leg and on the wall, which is that one the picture that you showed. Yeah, they were left comatose for 58 hours. 58 hours before anybody else found them. So, pretty bad there, obviously. And in the next night, so while these 2 ladies are still comatose, that next night, he entered the home of Carol Kyle and her 11-year-old son, Mark. He sexually assaulted Carol and left them both alive. Her description of him didn't match the ones the police had. So they still had really nothing to go off of. But he did leave a footprint at several of these murders. Then he actually messed up by trying to rob a deputy sheriff named John Rodriguez. He tried to open a window, and the window made a noise which woke the couple, and he escaped and left behind another shoe print. So he's just leaving shoe prints literally all over the place. So how by now they wouldn't have linked these? And also that next day, I think it was that same next day, he was pulled over by a cop. And when there's a description out for him, so the cop's not really paying attention. So while the cop was going back to his car, Ramirez wrote a pentagram on the car and booked it and ran away.
Well, here's the funny thing about that story, though. Ramirez was actually trying to assault somebody.
Yes.
The cop, somebody heard him trying to do this, so he took off, got in his car, and the cop got him for a traffic violation.
Yes.
Just down the street, and he actually heard over the radio his description about the assault coming over the cop's radio, and that's why he booked it.
Yeah. So
they had him. They had him, and he got away. But it's not the only time that he got away from the cops.
No, there's been other times. So obviously, when he left the car, he left fingerprints. The fingerprints were all over the car. And mind you, the cops had this car for a long time, but they didn't really do a lot of fingerprinting with it because the car sat out in the sun, so a lot of fingerprints just away, which blows my freaking mind. And I guess he also left a wallet in the car too, I think. So another victim that he had was 75-year-old widow named Mary Cannon. He beat her and stabbed her, and he left more shoe prints. And they said, this is going to sound a little graphic, but his slicing was so deep it almost decapitated her. So that was one of his I would say more brutal ones, aside from the eye gouging one. It was pretty freaking nuts. So then his next victims were Steve Bennett and Whitney, and their son, Steve Bennett, his wife, which I can't think of her name, and then their kids, Whitney and James. The front door was completely unlocked, so he just walked literally right into the house.
Back in the 80s, you could do that.
Yeah, back in the 80s, you just thought everything was fine. So he was going to kill the parents first, and then come back and do whatever to Whitney. Well, something actually changed his mind, and as he hit Whitney, I think with a tire iron or a crowbar, one of the two, and he went to choke her with a telephone cord. Well, the telephone cord sparked, and he actually claimed that was Jesus who intervened and kept him from killing Whitney. So he thought that was a divine intervention in one of his killings that kept him from killing her.
Funny, Satan believing in God,
right? Who would have thought? Well, I mean, to me, Satanism then, Satanism now is not completely different. Like
There's differences.
there's major differences. I mean, Satanism then, they actually believed in Satan. And you can't have one without the other, technically. But nowadays they say, oh, it's all about free choice. Anyways, I'm not going to get into that. We're here to talk about Ramirez. Yeah, there you go. Good job. Proud of you. He then went and attacked Joy Nelson, and he beat her to death. Then he went and handcuffed Sophie Dickman and assaulted her. But so this is Joy Nelson and I think Sophie Dickman were together, I think is what it was. And he handcuffed Sophie and assaulted her, but he spared her life. So she was able to help him there. And then the police actually made a breakthrough in the case. They found out that his sneakers that he was wearing and leaving prints everywhere was so rare, they actually traced it back to where he would have bought them. Like there was only I can't remember how many were sold, but they were just very rare. So there were only a rare amount of them were sold. And then they found the wallet in the stolen car, which that wallet had a dentist appointment card and 6 phone numbers. They figured out which dentist was his and Ramirez's alias name, and they planted 2 undercover officers in the dentist office. His feet and teeth were their biggest clues. Before he left, he assaulted a few more people.
Hold on. I want to say something about this dentist office thing. This is what I was saying. They had him twice. So they had his alias and everything. Well, the dentist office wanted them to install an alarm that they could ring if he came in. So they did. And he actually did show up, but the alarm thing didn't work. Like it wouldn't work. So they couldn't alert police to his presence. They had him again. And
right
it got
there. Ready to go.
It's like how many people had to die before they could catch him? They had him not getting him at the dentist office allowed for more people to die. So
yep. That was a mess up in the police part. Anyways, so he had, I would say, a few more victims before he got caught. Few of them were Layla and Maxon Needing, which he started hacking at them with, Leland, sorry. Layla and Maxon, there was a couple. He started hacking them with a machete. So this is the first time he ever used a machete during an assault. But he realized it wasn't sharp enough, so he shot them instead. So he changed up his killing, which was just, weird, but I guess he had to improvise.
There was no true MO for this guy.
Yes. And then he went after the Covenant family, which he shot the husband and beat and assaulted the wife, which, that's just great. By this time, you'd think it is pretty well known that he is the Night Stalker. Like, I'm sure that they are related together, and they're calling him the Night Stalker.
That kind of came because of the media. So, like, when he went to San Francisco, while he was in San Francisco, he took 2 more victims, Peter and Barbara Pan. Yes, I get it. Peter Pan. Yeah. That was on August 17th. His MO, complete with satanic symbolism, meant that the Valley Intruder moniker was no longer applicable. The press quickly coined the new name, the Night Stalker, as most of his assaults took place at night at his victims' homes.
Yep.
So that's how.
Don't forget, he also wrote on the wall Jack the Knife. That pan, he drew the pentagram and wrote Jack the Knife. For some reason, don't know what it means. Jack the Knife. Who knows? But then after that, he wasn't in San Francisco very long. He actually moved back to LA pretty much like right after that set of killings. But he actually stayed away from his usual places that was very heavily monitored. And so he started poking around Chinatown instead. So this next one that he went after is he actually went out to Orange County, which is like, I don't know how many miles or minutes away from LA south. But this young boy named James Ribeiro was staying up late one night working on a scooter, and he saw Ramirez driving his white orange car, and he noted how suspicious that was, and so he kept that car in mind. Well, not too far from James's house, he pulled over and basically found his next victim and said house he was going to rob. It was Bill and Carol is their name. Or Bill Cars and Carol Smith. Bill was shot 3 times. It was they were fiance, like a couple, whatever you want. They were going to be wed. I can't remember what the term is, but anyways, shot Bill, so he was incapacitated. Carol thought that he was dead, right? Well, apparently Bill actually was not dead after being shot 3 times in the head. So with that being said, the only gun that he used was a .22 caliber pistol, revolver.
Which a lot of people can't have survived a .22 caliber to the head.
Yes. So he assaulted Smith, of course. So after he was done, Ramiro, the boy, saw him driving off and remembered 3 digits from the license plate.
Yep.
He told his parents, and the parents alerted the police. The tip-off 4 days after the attack. Perez told the cops everything. Do you have what's the full name of Perez? Do you know? Do you have it?
Perez?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Basically, the cops went to the cops found out from this guy's daughter. They got a tip-off. This guy's name was Perez, and I can't think of his first name at the moment. Sorry. And they met with Perez, and Perez told them everything. His nickname, about his teeth, his gun, how much he was obsessed over Satan, where he came from, and in that he was arrested before on charges, I think it was stealing a car. I think he was stealing a car, and he got caught by police like way back. And so that Perez knew he was already in the system. So the cops were able to search through everything and found him literally in the system. And that's how...
Well, there's a little more to how he was found and caught.
The print in the car, right?
Well, national TV and print media coverage started featuring his prison photo, along with a series of clues from witnesses and survivors, led to his capture on August 31st, after he was badly beaten by East LA residents while he was attempting 2 carjackings.
Yep. He went into some shop, saw his face on all the newspaper stands, and started freaking out and left. And then he tried to jack the car. The lady fought him off, and another guy came over and started beating the crap out of him, so he ran away. And another carjacking tried to happen. And then, the citizens, they made a citizen's arrest and got the guy. Freaking awesome. Good job for those citizens.
Yeah.
But, that's what it was they found out that he was in the system. They had that picture and put that picture out for the world to see.
Now, Ramirez waited in jail as his trial was continuously pushed off. The delay marked by a series of motions and bickering between prosecutors and defense attorneys, because the geographical spread of the crimes also complicated the scope of the trial with jurisdictional issues. Some of the charges against Ramirez were dropped in order to expedite what was becoming a long journey to justice. The jury selection process finally moved forward in 1988, and the trial itself commenced the following January. During this time, Richard Ramirez attracted a cult-like following of supporters, many of whom were black-clad Satan worshippers. Ramirez himself often dressed in black along with dark shades for his courtroom appearances. Yet another delay occurred when one juror was found murdered on August 14th of 1989, but rumors that Ramirez had orchestrated her death proved unfounded. On September 20th of 89, the jury finally returned a unanimous guilty verdict on 43 charges, including 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 sexual assault charges, and 14 burglary charges. 2 weeks later, the same jury recommended the death sentence on 19 counts. Leaving the courtroom, Ramirez responded, "Hey, big deal. Death always comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." That's what he said. The convicted murderer was formerly sentenced to death in the gas chamber in 89 and was sent to San Quentin Prison in California to spend the remainders of his days. But it gets weirder. It gets a lot weirder.
Great.
While incarcerated, Ramirez married one of his supporters, a 41-year-old named Doreen Leoy, in 1996.
Who was at literally every single one of his trials.
She was,
mind you.
yeah, every one of them.
And she was a conservative Christian girl.
It's crazy.
Right?
It's crazy.
She just had this unnatural infatuation about the guy and was like, he's the one. But I will say, she was the first woman that he felt any trust or love with ever.
Yeah.
When you go into the details and his reaccounting of everything, he trusted her so much.
Yeah. And, there's that could play into the whole nurture thing. Maybe his mom was really nurturing. And he didn't have that innocence or that intimacy with her, from a young child. And that could have led to like maybe some of the rapes and stuff too, could have played a part in that. But like his trust in her, maybe she just seemed very motherly to him.
Yeah. Well, I did think she was older than he was for sure. Like if you look at the picture of her, she looks older.
A little bit. Yeah. I saw a thing where the news had was sitting there talking to her outside of one of the trials and stuff. She was getting in a car. She didn't look too terribly old or anything like that. She wasn't that much older, but yeah. So, his long-awaited appeal finally made it to California State Supreme Court in 2006 before being rejected. Ramirez was linked to more vicious crimes. In 2009, a DNA sample connected him with the April 10th rape and murder of a 9-year-old girl in San Francisco. After nearly 24 years on death row, Ramirez died on June 7th of 2013 at the age of 53 from complications related to B-cell lymphoma. According to the correction officers, Ramirez's death came shortly after he was taken to Marin General Hospital in California. So,
well, I will say after they linked his DNA to the young girl, his wife was a little bit more believing that he was involved in all these murders. By the way,
it was like, okay, so now you got DNA. Maybe he did it.
Maybe he was involved. For the longest time, his family still thought he was innocent.
Yeah,
like
okay. There's all this stuff against your boy, and you just want to think he's innocent. That's
right. Good to see you, Angel.
Yeah, but yeah, it's his whole track record, his whole killing spree and his lifestyle was very brutal.
Yeah.
We'll go into more detail on some of this on the Patreon, Boogeyman Radio After Dark on Patreon. So if you guys want to join us over there, it's patreon.com/Boogeyman Radio. Mm-hmm. We'll be starting at 9:15 on Patreon. It's only $2.49 to join us over there. You get access for an entire month, and you can check out some of the backlog content that's on there. I think to wrap this up, I want to play something real quick.
All right.
It's just a 30-second clip from Richard Ramirez. And I think this will wrap up our show tonight here on YouTube. So,
the Satanist admits to being evil.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another. Are we not?
I'm asking you the questions, my friend.
Yes, I am evil. Not 100%, but I am evil. Evil has always existed. The perfect world most people seek shall never come to pass. And it's going to get worse.
I don't know if you've ever watched a TV show called Evil. It's really good.
What I think.
It is really, really good. And it kind of talks about what he just said, where it's just evil always existed.
Yeah.
All these
it's yin and yang.
Yeah.
Can't have good
people who decide to shoot up schools. That's just evil. There's just evil people in the world, or there's evil that makes people do evil things, and unfortunately, it just happens. There's no way to control it. And I agree, Angel.
Yeah, and it, yeah, like Angel says, he was right. It did get worse. We have all these things going on now. Like University of Virginia had 4 of their football players killed. And then University of Idaho, Idaho, just had 4 of their students killed. I mean, it's like, what the heck is going on at these schools, man? What is going on? I hope you guys enjoyed our look into the serial killer, Richard Ramirez. We will be doing more serial killers throughout the time. I think it's an interesting facet to kind of explore and just kind of analyze and look into what these people were thinking. Get in the mind of a killer. And it's always cool. It's always cool when there's video to like where you can see them talking about it, like interviews. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fascinating. I like psychology, so this goes right hand in hand with it.
Yeah. Let me know if you guys thought he was guilty or innocent down in the comments below.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Too little too late, but it's whatever.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
About almost 30 years too late.
Well, hey, join us over at the Patreon page at 9:15 here in about 15 minutes. We've got some more inside little tidbits about Richard Ramirez and some of his killings, and we'll discuss it a little further. Yes. Thank everybody for jumping on here tonight. We definitely appreciate it. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe just so we know that you're following us. And also hit the bell for notifications so you know when we're going live each week. Charles, anything you want to add?
Much love, much appreciation. Thank you.
All right. We will see you guys on the other side. Have a good one.